One of the things you've been talking about lately, and people have noticed, is that speaking of deficits and spending, actually there are very encouraging signs on the spending front.
Yeah.
The pace of healthcare cost inflation has been trending down dramatically, and every quarter people are like, "Oh, this is going to be the last quarter, and then it's going to go up." But that hasn't happened. Projections are very low. Are you confident that, in fact, we have moved to a lower healthcare spending growth regime, and that?
No, I mean nobody knows. I mean, if there's one thing that's clear here, it's that nobody knows. But what is important to understand is that all of those dire projections about the budget deficit and all of that are very much driven by the assumption that high rates of cost growth in healthcare will continue into the indefinite future. And if that's not true, then the budget picture is really not very dire at all. So although we don't know that that's the case, at least we now know that what people have been treating as a fact, which is that the U.S. is in very bad fiscal shape if you look out 2 decades, it's not a fact. It's a hypothesis which does not seem to jibe with recent evidence.
And do you have any theories for why it slowed down? Do you think Obamacare deserves credit, or do you think it's something else?
You know, Obamacare, I think, as John Gruber likes to say, that basically every serious cost reduction idea that anyone has proposed is tried out as part of Obamacare, at least as a pilot program. So it probably has something to do with it. Actually, part of it may just be Stein's law. There's Stein's law, Herbert Stein, the much funnier father of Ben. It's something that cannot go on forever, will stop. Now, we knew that healthcare costs couldn't keep on growing 2% faster than GDP forever. Maybe this is when it stops. Maybe it's just that the whole system reached a point where, people are not willing. Even our highly flawed system is not willing to keep on paying ever more for ever more marginal treatments. But we don't know. But it's at least saying that we should not be reacting to future cost increases that may be just in our imagination.
And if the lower healthcare costs become a permanent part of the economic picture, is that it? Like, we can just stop talking about any fiscal matters, like it's solved?
Not entirely. No, I mean, we're still getting older. We still got those baby boomers hitting retirement. And so it's still, but if excess cost growth in healthcare goes away, then the eventual budget problem, instead of being 10% of GDP, ends up being 3% of GDP. And a 3% gap is not a hard thing to close. You can find some economies here and there, or you can have a modest tax increase. It's not a crisis. It's just, one of those things you have to deal with. But the idea that our system is in fundamental disarray turns out to be not at all true.